pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the roll call, please.
Councilor Roderick?
Here.
Councilor Ruda? Present. Councilor Durfee?
Here.
Councilor Boland?
Here.
Councilor Costa?
Here.
Councilors Lambert and Leonard are absent.
Thank you. Tonight's consent agenda consists of the approval of the minutes from September 29th, the regular council meeting. Councilor Ruda abstained, not present. Approval of executive session minutes from September 29th, 2009. Councilor Ruda abstained, absent. Approval of minutes from special meeting and workshop held May 4th, 2009. Councilors Ruda and Councilor Durfee abstained, absent. Receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions: the Arts Council, School Committee 3, and Wastewater Management Commission. Correspondence received and filed. Received from Peter Monas, brochure regarding Share the Road, also made available for public. Received from Town of Hopkinton and Town of Portsmouth resolutions opposing binding arbitration on monetary matters for school teachers. Received from Town of Gloucester a resolution regarding municipal support and asking Governor to reconsider additional cuts to cities and towns. Received from Conservation Committee regarding littering in Tiverton. Approval of tax abatements, tax assessor abatements, and Chris Spencer, Town Planner, request for November 23rd public hearing on zoning changes to a general commercial zone, approved by Planning Board 10609. And Phil DiMatteo, Treasurer, certificate of insurance, general auto liability, road surety accounts, and overtime calculations for police and fire department. That's tonight's consent agenda.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to pull item number 6, or CA 6C.
Okay.
I make a motion that the consent agenda be accepted with the exception of CA6C.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Jim?
I'd like to make a correction to that item. I believe that the fire department overtime is approximately $95,000 rather than 106, and it would be 42.5% rather than 47% expended.
What's the, what leaves us with that discrepancy?
I looked at the general ledger account for that item, and through the same period of time, it indicates $95,752.17 was expended versus the agenda item 106 for 47%.
Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the numbers were given to me by the payroll clerk. Numbers were given to me by the payroll clerk. I don't want to disagree without having to check that with her tomorrow. What she did was she compiled it from the timesheets, the manual timesheets that are submitted, and she had given that information to me. But what I will do, Jim, I'll give a report back to the council on that discrepancy and the difference of $10,000 and how it appeared or why it's there. There may be a credit or so that she had missed in the process, but I'll, at the next meeting, I'll have an explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always somebody else. So we're going to accept the report of the treasurer, except item 3, which will be reported back to us at our next meeting.
I will so move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Bid and request for proposals, wastewater management, request award of engineering design services for Shove Street area to C&E Engineering of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, for a total project cost not to exceed $22,600.
Good evening, John Lincourt, wastewater superintendent, and to my left here is Jeff Stearns, one of our newer wastewater management commission members. He, like Mr. Kendricks, is also a PE, and he helped me tremendously in putting together the RFP and also reviewing the proposals that came in. On August 20th, we let out a request for proposal for the engineering of the Shove Street sewers. On September 4th, we opened the proposals. We received 3 proposals, and we have reviewed the proposals, and based on the quality of the proposal and the cost of each proposal, we recommend for $22,600 C&E Engineers of Woonsocket.
This is solely for a design.
This is to look at the Shove Street area and
Yeah.
figure out how we're going to get the sewer, the present sewers from the Ponta Pump Station to the new Mill Street Pump Station. And we're also going to design a small portion, the remainder of Shove Street, so that we can take advantage of the CDBG recovery funds that need to be expended this year.
So the answer to my question is yes? It's for design.
It's design, and not all of it's going to be design.
Design and evaluation of the entire area, so that we know
Right.
when at some point we're going to design the entire area, but we want an evaluation first to see what options we have, the most cost-effective options. So hoping our engineer will provide that to us.
Okay, I thought we were, the 87 or 70, whatever that year was, the Berger report, had the Mill Street Pump Station in that flow there. So is this just to figure out how to get that to there, or, because I thought the whole area was we were using that Berger design, or we've been fluctuating from that, deviating from it, and we have to get back.
We did fluctuate from the Berger design when we decided to use the Ponta Pump Station as the way to get the wastewater flow from that area to Fall River. So we have to look at how to get the wastewater from the Ponta Station to the Mill Street Pump Station. The best way, obviously, is by gravity. There are a number of different ways that we could take it by gravity, but in each situation, there's obstacles that we have to evaluate.
I just want to be clear. Once this is designed and evaluated, then the next step would be to go out for bid for construction. Is that accurate?
What is being designed with this project is just a small portion of Shove Street. This project will give us a full set of design drawings and specifications for that small piece of Shove Street.
Yeah.
It will then give us the direction to go out and have an additional design done for the crossover.
Is everybody clear as to the crossover except
No,
me?
no.
I think it would have been helpful to have
Sure.
maybe the RFP attached to the backup.
Yeah, maybe you could help us
We
out.
actually have a plan here, and John, the portion of Shove Street that we're actually, is part of this design. And part of this design, roughly, a quarter of the $22,000 probably goes towards the design of the Shove Street section, which is,
If you could.
Get
Yeah,
that
you know-
tilted
Trying to
again.
get all set, thank you.
It's this section right here. We're looking at how do we take this wastewater and bring it from here to here. Okay? We have a number of options. We can bring it back down this way and run it down Connecticut Street. We can continue up this way and run it down this way. Or we can run it by gravity across the Pontic property and tie it in over here.
Okay. Where did the Berger report have this flow going? Was it down Connecticut Street to Mill Street?
No, the Berger report said that we follow all the way up to State Avenue and come down this way by gravity.
Well, okay,
Could-
but the Bourne Mill situation was not in play when the Berger report was done. So how can you tell me that we're supposed to take it up to this line, that service over here to Mill Street, which has been put in for the Bourne Mill? That line wasn't there.
The Berger report said that we should run a sewer line up to here. This would have been a 20-foot cut in rock, then run a line down here and down to the pump station.
Okay, but is that line, that dark green line you're showing me there, those are lines that are currently in place?
That's correct.
And when did that line that's on the upper end of Shove Street and that down into the Bourne Mill, is that recent or was that done?
That's recent. That's the new Bourne Mill project.
That's my point. My point is, the Bourne Mill project was projected back when the Berger report was done, so it had the line going down there? Bourne Mill wasn't on anybody's radar
Right.
when the Berger report was done. And that's why I'm a little bit confused about the Berger report telling it was going that way. I mean, it would have been nice to have what the original design was going to be, what we did to change the use of the plan that was available, because now we're spending another $20-some thousand to do engineering that I thought was in the plan for how it's going to go. If you're telling me that we need to look at elevations for what we did on, Rock, Clement, Walnut, where we may have made some changes going into the Ponta lift station, that would have to be undone, to carry this into where it was originally projected to get to the Mill Street station. Because Mill Street was always in the plan as being a lift station for handling that area of the north end of Tiverton, because of it had to flow back down this way before it went up and into Fall River. I'm trying to figure out what we're doing with this design on Shove Street, and it's to just figure out what we're doing with some 300 or 400 feet of Shove Street, and why do we if we know what the elevation is where that line goes down into the Bourne Mill, and we know where our elevations are for the lines going into the pump station at the Ponta, then why do we need to spend $22,000 to figure out how to get a line, whatever that footage is, from what appears to be Walnut Street?
around $15,000 to do that, because $8,000 is for the Shove Street design and bid documents. So spending roughly around $15,000 to figure all this out. So, we sat around a table and we had all these options that John wanted all these options how to get sewage from here to here.
Yeah.
And we sat around the table and said, okay, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. So, okay, well, we're going to need someone we're going to need borings, we're going to need to know what types of soils in the ground in order to go from this location to here, this route, that route, this route. So before we set someone on to design a route that the commission selects, we want someone to give us advice on what the best route is.
But we only really have two routes that look to me like it's something we can do without, having to acquire, property or right-of-ways and so forth, because, running it through the Ponta property down into the Bourne Mill property is not our land. You know, the streets we have. So, I mean,
Yeah,
our
we-
options in the streets are,
Going through the Pontic property, we would have to acquire an easement. Going into the Bourne Mill property, we already have easements, but, you know, we have soils issues over there. We have documented water, high groundwater over there. So that's going to make the construction very difficult. But that's the way to go to do this by gravity.
And the engineer is also going to look at putting another pump station in this location here and pump all the way to Bourne Mill as well too, and not have gravity is another option.
That's another
That's another
option.
option too. So we had a lot of options to go by. Having a pump station maybe a cheaper option than actually digging 20 feet in rock. So we just don't know how to direct. We don't know what option to choose right now that would be the most cost-effective option. So we're asking an engineer to help us figure out, look at all these options. What's the cost-effective option? Is even getting an easement based on land value an option too?
my concern is, the Berger report was done, which gave us, you know, basically where the flow should go, and it did all of the elevations and so forth. I'm not sure how detailed they got into, you know,
They didn't.
there was no detail about what might be under the ground.
That's correct.
You know, that might be very helpful for just to say, look, the Berger report did not address the issue that we have at hand. And maybe even supplement it. I mean, I can understand at this point what you're trying to do, and I think we all do, but it might be helpful even if we vote, to at least supplement it and just say, this is what the Berger report did not address.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah,
to.
I know it.
What one report did address,
Exactly.
you know, flows and routes and so forth and so on, and what seems to be the problem with the use of that data, or, you know, we need to get some supplement to that data. I mean, this is not what this is telling me. This says we're looking to go out and get a, you know, complete a sewer design for Shove Street and Hooper Street, and you know, my recollection is that everything was supposed to go, and we kind of got away from it because we got some money, and we didn't have money to do the lift station at Mill Street until the Bourne Mill project took place, and then we have this. But in the meantime, we've done 4 or 5 streets in the north end, and if we followed the Berger report, then we should be on target to have gravity feed of all of those systems down into this Mill Street. You know, and nowadays we may need an additional pump station. That says to me that we might have changed some of the Berger stuff. And that's what I'm asking. You know, did we make the changes that now make us redesign this rest of the system in that area to figure out where flows are going to go? Because we've, you know, deviated enough that makes that information we had from years ago, you know, irrelevant?
There were changes that were made. If you would like, I can put together a report to the council to be submitted within the next 2 weeks. I don't know if I can get it to you by next Tuesday for your packets, but I can get it to you within 2 weeks so that you can review it.
Might be helpful to have that.
Because if the original design was going to Mill Street...
Just so that we'll
I think
understand this for the future. So what we don't, but identifying where, you know, the Berger report and the date of that was
Yeah,
90.
that's 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was. I'm losing track of time on that. It's only that. I think in the future, when you come to us, that's going to be the information. You know, this was the general plan for sewers in Tiverton, and it kind of gave us, you know, where we needed to go, where it was. We didn't get into, as far as I know, with that, you know, what we might hit, you know, under the ground. And again, I understand you're going to look at the cost to see if the costs are more effective to do it in another manner. But I think it's nice to have the information of where we were, where we're at, and this is the reason why, you know, we're making these changes. I know it helps us make informed decisions when we get that information. Without it, we're looking to say, are we spending this money wisely if something else is already in place, and you're saying it isn't, so.
We accept your offer, I guess, John.
But are we going to vote on this contract, or we're going to wait?
I don't know what's...
Is this something you'd like to get done before the weather sets in?
We really need to get this done because we're looking at using the design so that we can go out and get a construction contract done. And
Based on the CBGC.
yeah, the CDBG-R funds, which were awarded to us this year, have to be used within 120 days of being awarded, and that award has been very recent, I believe. So,
On that basis, I will make a motion that we go forward and approve the engagement of C&E Engineers of Woonsocket for contract price not to exceed $22,600 to complete an overall plan to complete the sewers in Show Street and Hooper Street, and the connection between Shove Street to the new pumping station at Mill Street.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
But you'll get us that information.
I will definitely get you that information. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. The financial business, the town treasurer has reported to us that his guest for this evening, the vice president from First Southwest, was unable to attend, so that matter will not be before us.
I do have something for each one of you. Completed.
Are you going to try to reschedule?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Moving on to a new business.
Before we...
Motion to table that?
I make a motion to table the financial business from the town treasurer regarding the building corp education institution revenue bonds and the appearance by Steve Massoni, vice president for a Southwest company.
You know, I had a question. If Mr. Massaroni is here solely to talk about the bond issue that took place,
Well, he wanted to talk about all of our educational debt. He wanted to talk a little bit about the pricing on the Pocasset bond and basically review our educational debt programs that we have with RIBAC. He's asked to reschedule. He called me at 5:45 tonight,
Yeah.
saying that he had
I mean, these are bond issues that have been closed over several years. So,
this bond is the new.
but it closed. You know, what has occurred has occurred. So, I think the council had plowed that field.
There's a motion
So-
to table.
Second.
So we have a motion to table the matter, then seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business. Mr. Spencer, the town planner, a brief presentation on Tiverton's new geographic information system, the GIS.
Good evening. I've asked some representatives from Applied Geographic Systems. They're the ones who put together our whole geographic information system, and that was made possible through a planning challenge grant about a year and a half ago through statewide planning. So they're going to cover three or four topics. First of all, just what is GIS, just to give a little brief primer on that. And then the public sort of portal for our GIS, which is the web-based application, which will allow people to go in and look at parcels and create a butter list. And then GIS as a planning tool, more or less, what we can do through the planning department and other departments. And then lastly, just some of the other possibilities with other applications that are available out there that we might not have as of yet. So just want to introduce Michelle Giorgiani of Applied Geographics and Michael Blake, and they're going to go ahead and start the presentation.
Is it okay if I stand up here, or am I going to be in the way?
No, you can stand at that podium, or you can sit at that table. Yeah,
All right.
your choice.
Well, thanks for having me here today. Michelle and I are with Applied Geographics. We're out of Manchester, Connecticut, but the company also has an office in Boston, Massachusetts. And Michelle was intimately involved in developing the Tiverton GIS project. So we wanted to kind of explain a little bit about what GIS is for everyone. So I'll try to give you like a half a semester at college tour of what GIS is. So there are continuing education units that are available for this. So a brief introduction to GIS. We'll talk about the accomplishments that have been made to date. We'll give you a couple of demonstrations, and one of them is the live Tiverton GIS website. And then we'll talk about what comes next. So the components of a GIS. A GIS is a geographic information system. It really is composed of a bunch of data and hardware and software. It has some specialized applications like what we're going to show you here tonight. And it really is there to support the people that need to use it. So people is what it's all about. But the major component of a GIS is really the data. It's all about the data in the GIS. And has anyone here used a GIS? You might not know it, but everyone kind of uses them these days. If you're looking to go somewhere or find where there's a drugstore in the neighborhood or where the next Starbucks is, you're using GIS. It's just being presented to you through a website. Okay? Some key concepts of GIS. If you click that. The first concept is that all of this mapping data is organized into layers of information. So you can turn on whatever layers of information you're most interested in. What we just kind of turned on and dropped down on this is a bunch of point data. So GIS is just really points, lines, and polygons. It's used to represent things that are out there on the earth. So points in this case could be street addresses. Street addresses could represent customers. Sewer customers, water customers, taxpayers. Okay? So each layer is organized differently. What you just turned on there is water lines. It's a separate layer. And like customers, it has information about that feature. This water line is of a certain size. It was put in the ground this year. So it kind of describes what that feature is. And then we can just keep turning layers on. Hydrants, valves to shut off and turn on water. Maybe a layer of water main breaks. So you can have any number of layers. We've worked with towns that have hundreds and hundreds of layers. If you turn them all on, your screen would just be black. You wouldn't be able to see anything. So you just turn on the layers that you're really interested in. So here in Tiverton, you have a good starting GIS capability. It was developed in association with the Rhode Island state planning grant. So it really gave you the boost to get going, because it does take funding to get this going and get it started right. The major components of it was to develop with the data that the town has, which is tax parcels. That's usually the base map that all towns need. In addition to things that you can get from the state, like road center lines, environmental sensitive areas. There's a bunch of things that you can get from the state and federal government, like FEMA has flood hazard zones. So there's a lot of data that is out there already. What you're really lacking is the local focus, the parcels, the property ownership. Okay. What was also provided through this project is some GIS software that the town actually owns. So it has GIS software here in the town offices, and you have all of the data that's been developed, and you can use it here within your offices. Some of the tax maps were also converted, and GIS can also produce hard copy maps. That's what's in the assessor's office here, but it's all kept and maintained electronically. It's not in how many different tax maps cover the town, like maybe 120. So it's not in 120 separate individual sheets anymore. It's one continuous town-wide parcel layer. You can just break it up into 120 different sheets to print it out. And then the big thing is really developing a GIS website to make it accessible, because you spend a lot of time and effort getting this data converted. You want to put it into the people's hands to make use of it. And the best way to do that these days is through a website. So it doesn't require you to have any software on your desktop. You're just using an internet web browser, and Applied Geographics actually hosts that application on our servers. So Michelle's going to give you a quick demonstration of this is the live site.
So soon there'll be a link on the town's website to get to this GIS website. But if you wanted to go there right now, you can type in this address in your browser's address bar, and I'll post this at the end of the presentation as well too. So when you come onto the property viewer, typically you're going to want to learn more about a property of interest. So the best way to get to the property is to search on some information that you know. You know, usually an address or an owner name. So I'm going to bring you through a typical scenario where I'm going to search by address. And I'd like to find out what properties are on Indian Point Road. And seeing the list of matching results here, I know that I'm looking for the 66 Indian Point Road, so I can click on any of those hyperlinks there. And it brings me to this mapping interface where it shows you right away a basic parcel map of the property of interest that you're looking for. And also on the right here, you can see some basic information from the assessor's database. Also have the ability to view house photos and sketches of the property of interest. And if you'd like to see an aerial view of the property, you can turn on the aerial photo. Now you might want to make a more customized map by turning the layers that the town has on or off. And like Mike mentioned, there's lots and lots of layers that are available to the town, from the town's data as well as the state has a lot of data freely available, and so does the federal government. And right now we're looking at this parcel. I've got the flood zone layer turned on. So on this parcel we can see that it's intersected by the AE, which is a 100-year flood zone, as well as the 500-year flood zone. You can also, with one click, generate an abutters map, and this abutters map is selecting all parcels, all properties that are within 50 feet from the parcel of interest that you're looking at. And you can change the radius by entering in interactively a distance in here. You can also add and remove parcels by clicking on the map using this add and remove parcel tool. If you need to create mailing labels with one additional click, it generates standard A3 size mailing labels in a PDF document that you can then print or save. Oh no.
And you closed it.
I closed it.
And then the final step is really you can produce a hard copy map. So somebody could just go on the website, figure out who you need to notify, produce mailing labels, produce a hard copy map, and you're all set. In the past, you would have to come in here to Town Hall to do that. So you'd have to walk in, the assessor would have to help you, or the assessor's clerk would have to help you generate that list and certify that list, and then you'd have to go over to the map book and maybe paste and cut and put 4 sheets together to get the right view. So that's ways of the past. Now you have this electronically available and accessible, which is the key.
I was next going to show you how to create the printable map before I closed it. So I had clicked on the link to create the printable map, and you have the option to choose your paper size and also give your map a title. And I was on the abutters screen before I closed it, so I was planning on showing you the abutters map. We'll pretend this is the abutters map. But that's how easy it is to create a printable map that has a standard disclaimer and will show the information about the location that you were looking at, and a locus map to show you where you are in town. That is the quick run through of of the website. There are other things you can do on there, but we're limited on time, so moving on to the next demonstration.
Yeah, the next demonstration is really, okay, we've got this data hosted on Applied Geographic's server. You can get to it just with a simple web browser, but you've got town staff here, like the town planner and folks that want to be able to use this data for some additional analysis that is not in a canned kind of web application. So the town has all of this data here. They also have what's called the ArcView GIS software, which runs on a desktop computer here. So you have to have software here to do that, and access to the data, and then Michelle can show you how you can do various types of analysis.
This analysis that I'm going to show you is I'd like to find all parcels that are not conforming to the R30 zone. So I'm first going to query the zoning layer to find all zones that are all the R30 zone areas. And I'm going to now zoom to that R30 zone area. And based on that query, I'm going to now select features from the parcels layer that are within the selected features of the zoning layer. So I'm selecting all parcels that are in the R30 zone. And if we look at the table behind the scenes of these parcels, we can see that here it's showing us that there's 2,147 parcels that are within the R30 zone. Now I'd like to further refine that search by selecting parcels that are within the R30 zone that are less than 30,000 square feet to find out those parcels that are non-conforming. Now, the parcels that are less than 30 square feet are selected right now, and it's showing us that there's 2,049 parcels that are less than 30,000 square feet in the R30 zone. And another way to display that information is to create a graphic. So this pie chart shows you that basically there's 98 parcels in this R30 zone that are conforming to the 30,000 square foot requirement.
Okay, so the main concept that you saw there is there's information organized into layers. When Michelle was able to select a map feature from the map, it actually highlighted a row in a table. So there's a table of attribute information that describes each and every feature on the map. And these layers can be displayed on top of one another because they're in the same geographic coordinate system. So if you have those three concepts, you've got a B in your first semester of GIS in college right there. Okay, so what comes next? Well, you've got a wonderful set of layers that are great for the town to start using, and you can build upon them from there. Probably in Rhode Island, there's maybe 80% of the towns or higher have this capability already. They've developed it over a number of years. So you're not last, you're certainly not first, but there's a lot of towns that still struggle to get this level of information and to keep it updated, because if you don't keep this information updated, its usefulness kind of declines over time. So you have to make a commitment to keep this information updated. So what comes next and who could make most use of it? It depends on the town. In most towns that we see, though, it's like Public Works that has the biggest need, or if there's a utility in town, water or sewer, and certainly from an emergency response, fire department, police department. So we're going to give you just a couple of quick examples of these. So from a Public Works perspective, snow plowing, sanding, road right-of-way maintenance. So you can develop maps and mapping layers to support that. Drainage. Certainly, where do we have drainage, where we don't have drainage, where do we have drainage issues, where do we have catch basins that need to be rebuilt, where is the stormwater outfalls going, where is all that stuff? GIS helps you with the where is this stuff questions. And you can even take it down to facilities management. If you've got a lot of school buildings, it's just a GIS component on a smaller scale. It's buildings, floors in buildings, rooms in buildings, okay? So you can take it down to any level you want. Go ahead. Utilities management, water and sewer. This is just an example from a website, so this town just happened to put all their water and sewer utilities on the website because they have a bunch of people using it, a bunch of people out in the field that need to gain access to it. And utility networks are go ahead, Michelle, are unique because these features like pipes and valves can all be kind of connected together in what's called a geometric network. So that if I need to, say, isolate a section of the water system, I know what valves I need to turn on and turn off to isolate that section. Or if it's a sewer system and I've got a backup, I know where that backup occurs and I know what's upstream from there. The GIS can tell you. So this is kind of highlighting what's upstream from there. Okay? And of course, where are we doing work? Keeping track of what work has gone on, who's gone back and inspected it. You know, we have to update the GIS now because we've got this construction that's taking place. So maintenance tracking is big. And why is it big from a utilities perspective? Because this is what most vaults look like in a utility department. It's 50 or 60 or 70 or 100 years worth of records rolled up and boxes of index cards. It's just a massive amount of information. And GIS is really good for helping you archive that information, get it from a hard copy into an electronic format, make it easily accessible, and start converting those hundreds and hundreds of plans into a single seamless utility network layer. Okay? Fire department. Anyone here from the fire department? Yeah. Could certainly make use from an emergency response standpoint. You just think about all the things that occur and what you need to know when you respond to a situation where there are hazardous materials available. If we need to evacuate people, what route do we take? If that road is blocked, what's an alternative route? If there's a massive plume of things, which way is the wind blowing and how do we need to avoid that? So having that mapping perspective really helps you. Okay. And as click one more time, Michelle. This was a project I actually did in the town where I live because they have a very small water system in the center of town, but the rest of the fire protection in town is from drafting and dry hydrant sites. So when you have a fire, they have to send a tanker out to tank up. So where are those sites? They really had no comprehensive map. They had one guy with 30 years of experience that knew where they all were. And, oh, by the way, he's in Florida now because he retired last year. So everyone was kind of going through his notes. So we actually hired some high school students to go out with GPS units and locate each and every one of these drafting and dry hydrant sites. We put a point on the map. We then used the GIS tool to buffer that by a half mile and a mile so we could see where we had good coverage. And we can actually spot areas where we didn't really have any coverage so they could focus on finding drafting and dry hydrant sites in those areas. And then this town, the town where I live, actually used it to improve their ISO fire rating, which essentially reduced everyone's insurance rates in town. So just one example of what you can do with GIS. Police department, huge users to know how to respond to incidents, where there are crimes taking place, where there's patterns of crimes taking place, so they can be more proactive rather than reactive. Of course, where there are school zones and crimes that occur within school zones, all right, critical facilities, where all those are, and how do you protect them? Big, huge issue these days. Go ahead. And then there's the address to the town's website. So this is, I think, ultimately going to be posted on the town's website. There'll be a link on it that Chris is going to work on getting on that says Town GIS website, and it's going to just bounce right over to Applied Geographics hosting facility. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask a couple of questions? Can we ask some questions?
Absolutely.
I'm totally ignorant about these kinds of things. How does the information that you've been showing us get in there? Somebody has to input that, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. So how did somebody like Michelle put it in? The parcel layer, which was organized into 120 separate maps, all those hard copy maps needed to be scanned into an electronic format.
How long did that take to put that kind of information into the system?
To get that information into the system?
From start to now.
About a year.
About a year?
Yep. Because part of the thing that you go through when you digitize all those features, then you link it up to what's in the assessor's database, and you find the mismatches. Where do we have property that we don't have a record for here, or we have a record here, and we don't have anything on the map. So you go through that to get that all squared away also.
One of the things I'm interested in, this town has grown substantially, and I'm interested in traffic signs, speed limits, all that sort of information. Now, that would take a year or maybe more then to put into this computer so that we could take a look at what we've got, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends. It depends on how extensive it is. I mean, if you wanted to get every traffic sign in town, yeah, you could do it. You could put an army of people out on the ground with GPS units, and you can get it done in a month.
Does your company have volunteers, or do we have to build a
It's
staff?
not a great business model, but there's probably a lot of high school students or volunteer organization, Boy Scouts, that would probably be more than willing to help out as a project.
I sort of lost my oomph on the project that I would like to see go.
You could head it up.
Beg pardon?
I said you could head it up.
Except I don't know what to do. I can see a picture, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Spencer, you're back again with a request for public hearing on the enterprise zone redesignation for November 9th.
Thank you. As you may know, the enterprise zone is good for 5 years, and it's coming up for a redesignation. And I'm working with Bill Clark in Portsmouth because we have a combined enterprise zone with Portsmouth. They have some sections that are within the enterprise zone, and the entire town of Tiverton is within the enterprise zone as well. So I think in the backup material there's a resolution that was used, I don't know if it was last time, it looks like 1995, but I think that would suffice. And just, that's primarily what needs to be done. And then a public hearing has to be set because the public has to have some input. Prior to that, it'll be on the planning board agenda to go over it to make sure that it's consistent with the town's comprehensive plan.
So your request is to have a public hearing on November 23rd. I will so move.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to request public hearing date of November 23rd for a public hearing on the enterprise zone redesignation for Tiverton. Further discussion?
November the
Wait a minute,
23rd?
it says November 9th.
Or is it November the 9th?
I think
I think I had initially put it in as a 23rd,
Yeah.
and
It's on
the clerk
the agenda.
mentioned that the 9th might work better.
If I may,
I think,
Yeah.
originally, the item that was on the consent agenda about the zone change had been to the 23rd, had been to the 9th, rather, but because we're meeting on a Tuesday today, not a Monday, there's no way we can get the advertising in time, so that had to get moved to the 23rd. We also have the continued Tiverton Power Plant public hearing, which we expect to be continued and not go forward on the 9th. So that was why the thought was to put this public hearing on the 9th and not overload the 23rd, because you're also going to have all your annual liquor license and other license renewals on the 23rd. So that was
Do we
why.
have time to meet the advertisement requirement for the 9th for this public hearing?
Yes, because it doesn't require that 21-day, it doesn't require the 3-week notice that a zoning amendment would require, or the 21-day requirement that a
Yeah, it's more like 10 days, I believe.
yeah.
so.
Amend the motion.
I will,
The 9th.
with your permission, I will amend it to make it the 9th, not the 23rd.
Can we have a motion and a second to request public hearing date of November 9th for public hearing on enterprise zone redesignation for Tiverton? Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Don't go away.
It's still up, Chris.
Yeah.
We have a proposed resolution as part of the 2009 community application for designated Tiverton as a Preserve America community.
Some members of the Tiverton Historic Preservation Advisory Commission had forwarded the application to me, and I've been working with Sarah Zuria at State Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission on this. And briefly, what it does is it allows Tiverton to have access to Preserve America grants. So there's no regulatory or any other strings attached. It's not creating a historic district or anything like that. So, and there's a resolution that they provide, sort of a boilerplate, and I've included that. So this would be part of that application.
What do you see in town honchoing this project, Chris?
I'm sorry?
Who would oversee this project, this operation?
On the grant, or not the grant, I'm sorry, the designation application, I'd be working on that.
The general responsibilities for the program would be...
Well, the program, once you're designated, you're designated, and you're listed on the website, and there's another number of other benefits to that. And then once you're a designated Preserve America community, then you have access. If a Preserve America grant comes forward, the town is eligible now to go after those grants. So as far as the designation application, I'm working on that. So.
Okay, yeah, this is the first portion of it.
Yeah.
But once we are a
Preserve America community.
Preserve America community, who would then write the grants? Who would see how the grants were used, and who would monitor the whole program?
Well, it all depends on when the grants come in or what opportunities are there. I mean, there may be some grants that are available for something up in Fort Barton or in Weedomow Woods or Four Corners. It all depends really what the sequencing of grants are, and it could be myself, it could be the Preservation Advisory Committee that's working on it. It could be other departments that look at it.
Okay.
So it wouldn't just fall under the planning department, but again, I'm just trying to get the designation application together so we'd have access to those opportunities.
I just don't want to see too many things go on in town at this point in time, and that's going to mean more work for somebody, because we certainly can't hire more people until the economy improves. So that's my concern.
Right. This doesn't. Once this designation is in, it doesn't create any work. You don't have to do any grants. You don't have to go after any grants. It simply allows you or gives you the eligibility for those grants.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
If I may, several years ago, I was president of a nonprofit organization that applied for what was actually a predecessor of this Preserve America's Treasures program. And the sort of thing was, okay, well, we can apply for the designation. Is there any money? No, there's no money involved now. We just get to say we're part of it. It's a hassle. Should we do the application? Well, we did the application, and then about 2 years later, someone decided to donate money to certain America's Treasures in Newport, and out of the blue, there was a $100,000 donation just because we were Preserve America's Treasures. And then later we were able to get a government grant. So even though it doesn't look like anything at the moment, it's something that is, I would say it's worthwhile, because you never know what future grant might be just the thing for you. Mm-hmm. And as Chris said, you don't have to apply for anything. It just gives you that ability.
I will make a motion that we adopt the resolution for applying for a designation as making Tiverton a Preserve America community.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Town Administrator, request approval for 2 one-year renewals per contract provision with 3% increase, extending current contract to December 31st, 2010 for the town mowing services to McGill Turf Management Incorporated.
The current contract, there was quite a bit of confusion. It was issued beginning January 1st. Historically, it had always been a fiscal year contract and would go from fiscal year to fiscal year. The last time the contract was awarded, it was awarded for 18 months, which was from January 1st, 07 to 12/31/08. And that caused a lot of confusion. And what I'm attempting to do here is to straighten out the contract. The contract did have 2 one-year extensions, and I'm trying to get those extensions exercised with the council so that the contract will end up being a 3-year contract ending 12/31/2010. And as part of that, I'm asking for a 3% increase. This 3% increase would carry the last two sessions, 2 summers of a total 4-summer contract. And I'm trying not to confuse anyone here with this, but Mr. McGeough has been mowing since 2007 for the same price that was awarded. And for 2007 and 2008, the price remained the same. Now we're looking for the summer of 2009 and the summer of 2010, and a 3% increase. So it's less than 1% per summer. And he's been under contract with the town for over 23 years at this point. He's been the lowest bidder and the most qualified bidder. So my recommendation would be to extend the contract to December 31st, 2010.
Mr. President, could I say that the McGeough Company does an outstanding job. It's always worked for less than what the job was worth. It's never been afraid to take on a project and not charge us for it. I'd be more than happy to make the motion to do the extending as it's being proposed, in spite of the fact that I'm against any increases anywhere in the state of the town financial situation. I would yield to make this an exception.
Hannibal, that doesn't sound like you.
No, it doesn't.
You have fallen off the wagon.
Not really. This is the other side of me, good management. You see, the good management side said...
Jim, the 09 is 25. You're asking for the extension of 25,639?
Yes, which has been budgeted.
Okay.
It was budgeted and approved at the financial town meeting.
This keeps it on a calendar year basis?
It will keep it on a calendar year basis moving forward.
Okay. I'll second Mr. Hannibal's, and I'm going to remind him of this from time to time.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request made by the town administrator to approve 2 one-year renewals per the contract provisions with a 3% increase, extending the current contract to December 31st, 2010. Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Town Solicitor, status report on the East Bay Energy Consortium.
How about town administrator?
Oh, I'm sorry. They were blank. Town Administrator announcements, comments, and questions. And I'm wearing the glasses.
I know.
The first announcement is that we are lacking 2 volunteers, one for the Zoning Board of Review and one for the Tax Board of Appeals. And we would urge anyone who is interested to submit an application to the Town Administrator's office. The second item is we have large metal pickup scheduled for Saturday, October the 17th. Anyone interested would have to call the Department of Public Works at 625-6760. The Police Department has received a $14,100 traffic enforcement grant, and they will be utilizing that on an overtime basis.
I'm sorry, Jim, could you look the amount was again?
$14,100. The trust, our insurer, will be conducting a safety visit on December the 3rd. You were handed, the next subject is abatements. The council wanted to keep track of abatements and how we were going to be able to fund those abatements. This evening you were given a report that shows abatements through this meeting at $69,219. I think probably the simplest way to keep track of these abatements is to issue a report like this monthly from the tax assessor's office to the council. And then I would ask the treasurer to set up an account under the town administrator's budget, okay, as he requests transfers into that account, we can see where we are. For example, if I request a $15,000 transfer from the council, it will go into a specific town administrator's account and would be toward the $69,000. As we did last year when we were trying to cover the shortage of state funding, this is probably the easiest way to get it accomplished for the council.
Can I ask, where would that money go? Once you establish the account, you begin transferring funds to it, then how would those funds be used?
They wouldn't be used. They would stay in the account until the end of the fiscal year, and then they would go into the general fund.
I'm confused. Why are we going to set up an account to transfer money to an account controlled by you that's going to end up going back to the general fund?
And come from an account and come from somebody's budget that needs the money.
There's no other way to cover the shortage other than transferring it from some other account, as we did last year. If you recall, there was an account under the town administrator's budget, and it was, I can't remember the exact wording of it now, but it was something to the effect of state aid
Reduction.
And we were transferring from various accounts into that account, and that account accumulated $375,000, yes, from other accounts. And at the end of the fiscal year, that account had $375,000.
Which went into the general fund.
Which went back to the unrestricted general fund.
But it was a way, Hannibal, I think, Jim, just, it was a way of offsetting the fact that we did have reductions. We did not have all the taxes collected. We had revenues going this way. In effect, it's just a reduction in spending.
Right, to cover a reduction of revenue.
Yeah, because...
Yeah, so there's no actual money in the account, which then goes back into the general fund.
Well, yes, there is. The unspent money would go back into the general fund.
The unspent money was money that didn't come in.
Well, no, it was
So
offsetting.
you don't run a deficit.
It was offsetting the money that didn't come
Right,
in.
it's offsetting it, but there's no actual money to replenish the general fund in that amount. We got in, if it was $400,000 less in revenue from the state.
Yeah, but
we
you were
spent.
transferring it from other accounts that
Right,
didn't
no,
have
no,
that.
we transferred the money so that we didn't spend the money
Right.
because we didn't get the money. So that was.
Yeah, and the same thing, the concept is the same
Okay,
here.
yeah.
If you will recall at our financial town meeting, Jim had said, or proposed, that we expense the abatements,
Right,
that they represent taxes that we would not collect.
yes.
Okay.
Were those offset by people in prior years paying taxes?
No.
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 Why wouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be? Yeah?
Well, because the
Tax
budget
collection,
committee took the
direct
position,
deposit to the general
Yeah.
fund.
Hannibal, the budget committee took the position that our tax collections for the current year are off. We'll offset those with prior year collections. That's where they came out. Abatements, you remember on the floor of the financial town meeting,
Yes.
we wanted to expense it so
Yes.
that there would cover the loss of revenue. And
But it sounds like an exercise in accounting as opposed to accomplishing something financially.
it does accomplish.
It accomplishes two things. One is, we've already expended in abatements $69,219. We don't have $69,000 to give back, so we've got to cut what we spend by $69,000 to make the budget come out even. So what Jim is saying, he has to find a way to transfer $69,219 out of the operating budget into this account so that at the end of the year, we haven't overspent by the amount of the abatements.
It's an offset account.
Yeah, it's going to be deficit spending if we continue to operate the way we're operating and keep giving abatements because we're giving back taxes. that
We're
we
not
haven't
collecting
collected
taxes.
that
We've
have
never
been
had
accounted
any,
for.
and we've never had a process that accomplished what it is this is going to accomplish.
We've had an
Which
offset
makes it,
for
beg your pardon?
In the past, we've had an offset.
Yeah,
for
you know,
abatements.
a year ago, up at the financial town meeting, and that's the one thing that helped us get through, I think, the financial year that ended in June, was we had a uncollected taxes, an amount expended for $237,000. That, plus the monies that, on the tax reduction account, plus the debt service we didn't have to spend, all added up so that the monies that had offset the monies that we didn't have, or got cut, or didn't get collected.
I understand what the intent is and how it will work, but, well,
It isn't money that gets, I think that the concept here of what people have said, it isn't money that's going to get deposited to the general
Yeah,
treasury, to
exactly.
the, you know, because there will be no money. It's taking money, it's actually subtracting the money before it's spent. And there'll be an account which says there's money there, which isn't there because it's already been given back to the taxpayer. It's, again, as you said, it's an accounting practice more than anything else, and it's just to show that we didn't overspend. For every abatement we give, we've got to find that dollar amount to take out of the budget because there was no money allowing us to give abatements. And abatements are a ordinary and necessary part of our operation. When someone comes in and shows that they were overtaxed, they have to have...
well, it will reduce spending, so I'm in favor of that. I'll go along with it,
Except for McGee.
except for McGee.
Okay, so you want a motion to allow you to set up an account again this year? You're going to call it the same, you know, what are we going to call it?
Abatements.
Abatements? Okay.
How about abatement offset?
Abatement offset, okay, yeah.
That's
Okay.
lovely.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the town administrator create an account called abatement offsets.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Jim.
Talking about abatements, we received a total of 134 tax appeals. 70 have been reviewed by the assessor, 10 have gone to the Board of Appeals, and we've got approximately 64 left to review at this point. Next item. We currently have 66 tax sale properties. And the time is drawing close. It's going to be advertised in tomorrow's, or it's going to go to the newspaper tomorrow. We had hoped that a lot of people would, and in fact did, make payments so that it wouldn't be advertised. But we've got right now approximately, as of yesterday, I don't know what today's activity was, but as of yesterday, we had 66 items going up for tax sale. Tax collections. This year, as of today, we have collected 50.72% of our levy. Last year, at the same time, we collected 51.76%. So we have fallen behind by 1.4% this year.
1.04.
We had to have the water tested at the non-quit school, and it has to be done quarterly. And it has been tested, and the results are fine, no problem at all.
All right, who's drinking the water at the non-quit school?
The maintenance crew. That's all I have. Thank you.
Council announcements, comments, and questions? I'd just like to say that a gentleman approached me this morning and was speaking about the trails in Fort Barton and was praising, the condition, the litter condition, everything in Fort Barton. I did tell him that he needs to thank, Gary Plunkett and that crew of volunteers who have been doing a wonderful job, at our recreational facilities, or shall I say, our, open space facilities. And whenever we hear something positive, it's nice to pass it along. And I do want to thank that whole group of people that have been doing a marvelous job in those Weedamo Woods and Fort Barton and so forth.
And, particularly Dana Sumner, who walks every morning the entire route and picks up bottles or cans.
Yeah. Gary did tell me that, but I just wanted to say to him and all his volunteers, thank you so much. It is being noticed. Town Solicitor.
Thank you. Two items to report outside of executive session. Just one is a status report on the East Bay Energy Consortium, which you may remember is an entity formed of the 9 East Bay communities to explore combining resources and economies of scale in renewable energy production, principally wind power. The organization has coalesced together. They received the grant that was requested. They didn't receive the full grant from the government grant, but they received the balance from the Rhode Island Foundation, so they received the full grant for the study. All of the cities and towns in the East Bay, including Tiverton, have appointed their voting representatives. There was an RFP out for consultants for the pre-feasibility study, and there was a 5-hour meeting last Monday of the Energy Consortium to interview the consultants and choose the consultant on the pre-feasibility study, which is going forward. And the group is going to hopefully adopt bylaws, and although it may take some other corporate form of life in the future, it will initially be a Rhode Island nonprofit corporation. It might conceivably be a utility or a cooperative or something like that. Currently, the research is being done by Roger Williams University Marine Institute and Roger Williams University law students on the best choice of entity. And I am serving as legal counsel to the Energy Consortium. I've offered them my discount half-price municipal rate, and so they're paying that from the grant. So the town doesn't have a cost on that. So that will be moving forward, and I just wanted to report. And if you had any questions or anything on that.
Isn't Gary Plunkett our principal participant in this consortium?
I believe he is, yes. We appointed him and a couple of alternates. And he was there. There were actually 2 people from Tiverton there at that meeting, the long meeting. So, and he's a very useful resource, very knowledgeable,
well,
very useful.
He isn't delivering the report rather than you.
I don't know, because I was there and dealing with the legal stuff as well. Next item is Weaver's Cove. As you know, the town of Tiverton, together with the town of Bristol, filed a request for the Coast Guard to reconsider its decision that it did not object to the so-called offshore berth, which is going to be in the middle of Mount Hope Bay, and from what we can tell, actually very close to the town line of Tiverton almost, right smack there in the middle. So we filed a request for the reconsideration. The Coast Guard acknowledged that and is considering it. We've also been working, as I indicated, I attended the meeting, the public argument before the U.S. Court of Appeals. It actually concerns the earlier application of Weaver's Cove for the Fall River, but it concerns CRMC's regulation over the dredging. There's been no decision yet from the Court of Appeals, but there was a very good meeting with representatives from the Attorney General's office of both Rhode Island and Massachusetts, as well as some of the other municipalities, Fall River and Swansea, and I was there and participating on that. We hope to be working with them in the future, pursuing that. I did provide to you for your information, it would be amusement if it wasn't sad. but there was a filing, there was a letter from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission dated September 28th. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency had requested to be a cooperating agency in the development of the environmental impact statement, and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission said, "No thanks, we're unable to grant EPA's request due to its belief that it cannot accept our conditions regarding the release of pre-decisional information." As you know, a great deal of the information submitted by the applicant has been considered to be confidential. Either they're claiming it's proprietary business information or it's necessary for security reasons to keep it confidential, which obviously makes it hard for anyone to comment knowledgeably about it. And apparently FERC is applying the same view to the EPA itself. We're looking into that, and again, we're researching, that may end up as a subject of litigation as well, but we are staying involved in that. And that's all I have for public comment.
Now time then to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to 42-46-5A6.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor?
And to stay therein, to discuss litigation pursuant to 42-46-5A2.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor?
And to remain therein to discuss collective bargaining under 42-46-5A2.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor?
And to discuss personnel pursuant to 42-46-5A1.
And notice that notice was sent.
Notice was sent.
Second, motion made and seconded. Discussion, none. All those in favor? We're now in executive session.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the roll call, please.
Councilor Roderick?
Here.
Councilor Ruda? Present. Councilor Durfee? Here. Councilor Boland?
Here.
Councilor Costa?
Here.
Councilors Lambert and Leonard are absent.
Thank you. Tonight's consent agenda consists of the approval of the minutes from September 29th, the regular council meeting. Councilor Ruda abstained, not present. Approval of executive session minutes from September 29th, 2009. Councilor Ruda abstained, absent. Approval of minutes from special meeting and workshop held May 4th, 2009. Councilors Ruda and Councilor Durfee abstained, absent. Receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions: the Arts Council, School Committee 3, and Wastewater Management Commission. Current